We have to have the public's trust, and we're not going to allow things like this to happen. This isn't who we are. The culture is not that way.
A former Spokane County Sheriff Sergeant says he was discriminated against and defamed by the sheriff. Tonight we sat down with Ozzie Knezovich to learn more.
And Tom, you're tracking some heavy rain and some flooding.
Yeah, the thunderstorms creating some flooding and flash flooding in northern Idaho and north central Washington. All the details on that coming up next.
And a new report looks at the state of Washington public schools and just how vulnerable they are to earthquakes, even right here in Spokane.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Hanrahan.
It's good to have you with us tonight. I'm Whitney Ward. Jane is off tonight. We are tracking some breaking news out of Brown's Edition at this hour. Spokane fire crews have found a body in the Spokane River near Peoples Park. This is right where a person was reported missing earlier.
KREM 2's Casey Decker is live at the scene right now. And Casey, what can you tell us?
Well, we're actually at the scene where the body was found. That's actually closer to TJ Meenock Bridge. The initial call was at Peoples Park. The body was found closer to TJ Meenock Bridge right now. You can see the bridge behind me over there. Now, just upriver from here is actually where the body was discovered. That was found following two 911 calls. The first, as you mentioned, someone was tubing near Peoples Park, and they called in that a person they had been tubing with had disappeared. They found that person's tube, but they couldn't find the man in his 40s, who's the person who went missing there. Then there was a second 911 call reported that a person found in the river down here. Those calls prompted a divided water rescue operation. Crews walked the banks of the river all the way up and down for quite a while, and they also obviously had kayaks searching the river. And then just a little while ago, we learned that a man was found dead on the banks here close to the TJ Meenock Bridge. Spokane Fire Chief Schaefer mentioned that it was in an eddy, and now they're keeping that body there awaiting the medical examiner. The ME and the police will investigate. Right now, they don't think it's anything other than an accident, but they are going to be investigating that. Once they're done with that investigation, the fire department will then float the body down closer to the bridge where there's a takeout point, and at that point they can take the body out. So right now, all the information we have is that there has been a body found here near the TJ Meenock Bridge following an earlier water rescue operation, and we'll obviously be providing you more details as we get them. Reporting live from the Spokane River, I'm Casey Decker, KREM 2 News.
All right, Casey, thank you very much. Also, right now we are tracking severe weather around the region. Washington State troopers now seeing reports of flash flooding in Chelan County. That flooding is causing mudslides already. Yeah,
so State Route 97A between Entiat and Chelan is now closed until further notice. You can see a dump truck and a U-Haul are stuck on the roadway right there. Troopers are on scene to help the drivers. There has been a flood watch in this area for most of the day now. Meteorologist Tom Sherry standing by at the Weather Center tracking all this. Tom?
Yeah, let's talk about it right now. Again, you talked about that flash flood warning. This is in the area that we're seeing the debris flow over Highway 97. Now a new flash flood warning has been issued. This one is going to be in effect until 8:30 tonight. And this particular one that we're talking about for 8:30 tonight, this is up in the areas of north central Washington. As you can see, it's actually near Nespelem, and it's near that North Star burn where they had the terrible forest fires over the last several years. Well, then you've got a burn scar there, so of course there's no vegetation to keep that soil on the sides of the mountains. And of course, when you get some heavy rain like we're experiencing right now, that's where we're going to get some of that flooding. We could see some flooding into Stepstone Creek and Gold Creek, possibly a debris flow flashing through there. We did have a flash flood warning in Bonner County. That was only for a brief period of time, but we did see some heavy rain in that area, but we have not heard any reports of any damage from the one that happened up in Bonner County. But as you can see from the Doppler radar, my gosh, it is booming out there right now. It does appear that as we're getting later in the evening that the thunderstorm activity now is beginning to decrease. But again, keep in mind those storm warnings, flash flood warnings in north central Washington in effect until 8 o'clock and 8:30 tonight. But the ones in northern Idaho have expired. Locally, we're looking for about a 30% chance of showers here in Spokane through the 8 o'clock hour, and then we'll look for just a slight chance of showers through the rest of the late evening and into the overnight hours. Tomorrow should be mostly dry, at least here locally. Look for an overnight low of 54, 76 the expected high tomorrow under partly cloudy skies. For the weekend, it gets nice. I've got 80s on the 4th of July, and then we'll look for low 80s for Saturday and Sunday. I'll have the rest of your 10-day outlook coming up in a few minutes.
All right, Tom, thank you very much. A former Spokane County Sheriff's Sergeant is seeking $12.5 million in damages from Spokane County.
Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich fired Jeffrey Thurman last month after he allegedly spoke to a colleague about killing minorities. Thurman's tort claim alleges the sheriff's statements in a press conference about the firing were both defamatory and false.
KREM 2's Amanda Rowley sat down with the sheriff and has his response to that claim.
Spokane County Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich says the investigation into now former Sergeant Jeffrey Thurman was very thorough and can stand on its own against the claim that Thurman filed against the sheriff's office. A tort claim is a precursor to a lawsuit. It alleges the comments Sheriff Knezovich made in a press conference about Thurman's termination were both defamatory and false. We met with the sheriff today and asked for his response to the allegations listed in the claim.
It's in here, folks. I hope that the plaintiff's attorney at least read the file before she wrote this.
The claim also alleges the sheriff knew that the person who made the internal complaint made additional discriminatory claims that turned out to be false.
I don't think that that is an accurate depiction of what happened here. There were concerns that were brought to our attention. We looked into the concerns and we found that some were sustained, some were not sustained.
There's also the claim that the sheriff knew or should have known that no competent evidence supported Thurman's statements about hunting and killing black suspects.
He talked to 3 separate supervisors, gave the same account of it. Neither Thurman nor the deputy that was also a witness to this ever said it did not happen.
The claim also suggests the person who made claims against Thurman did so because they hold him responsible for not getting promoted.
That was one of the things that he felt that maybe he was being discriminated against. We looked into it and we didn't find any evidence of that.
And finally, Thurman's claim alleges the statements he made or implied to a female deputy about intending to impregnate her are also patently false.
There are 3 different verifications of the statement that that you could become pregnant were there.
Now, the sheriff also shared with us this document that Thurman shared with the Spokane County Civil Service Commission. The sheriff says they expect a civil service hearing in the next 2 to 3 months, and that hearing will decide if Thurman gets his job back. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
People lined up in downtown Spokane earlier today to demand lawmakers close child detention centers. Protesters say they want Congress to stop funding immigrant centers and visit the detention camps themselves to witness what it's like.
I think we had a great turnout. It was really diverse. It's important to me because I'm the mother of 5 children, and this is really a way that they have funded racism against our people.
So those protesters started at the courthouse and then made their way to Representative Kathy McMorris Rogers' office. Today's demonstration was part of a nationwide close of camps protest. In an effort to be prepared in case of a major earthquake strikes here in this area, state agencies have been conducting tests and studies. So the Department of Natural Resources released a year-long study that looked at the safety of public schools.
Callie Greenberg with our Seattle sister station looked into that report and found many schools need a lot of work.
It was a study to learn what we don't know. What will happen to Washington school buildings when we're hit by a moderate or major earthquake? Here's what we learned.
The average building is expected to be 43% damaged in a design level earthquake, and a majority of the buildings are expected to be red tagged, so they're unsafe to occupy.
Out of more than 220 buildings tested by the DNR, hazard geologist Karina Forson said many Washington schools, especially those built before 1975, are vulnerable to earthquakes.
Those older facilities are more at risk.
The project involved $1.2 million from the state. The DNR hired a team of engineers who used tools to test the buildings.
Well, we were looking for the type of material the building is, how well connected it was, when it was constructed, how much.
David Swanson was one of those engineers.
The goal of the study isn't to single out bad buildings or a bad district, it's really to highlight the fact that there are these needs that really are throughout our state.
A problem Forson said will cost several $1 billion to fix. Upgrades to buildings can cost anywhere from $63,000 to more than $5 million.
One of the interesting and great things I think that we found is that the cost to seismically upgrade the building is much, much less, 5 to 50% less than the cost to actually create or build a new building if the earthquake were to damage it.
But many school districts are already struggling financially, which is why they want this state-funded study to inspire a statewide solution.
Some of our most valuable assets are in these buildings, and they act as a gathering place in an emergency and a disaster. And so it's vital that these staples of our community are up to seismic code and that they are able to withstand the earthquake shaking.
Well, in other news, even though the wildlife overcrossing near Snoqualmie Pass is not officially complete, animals are still getting good use out of it. So take a look at this video. You can see 2 deer quickly run over the bridge. This is exactly what the overpass was designed for.
WashDOT crews started that overcrossing back in 2015. It's all part of a $500 million project to rebuild 15 miles of road just east of Snoqualmie Pass. They have the main structure completed, as you can see. They just need to finish planting the natural vegetation that will cover it. Downed trees will also be brought in to provide cover for smaller animals.
At last check, it is the only overcrossing in Washington, but WashDOT says more overcrossings are planned for the next half of that project as it pushes east.
Well, vintage warplanes are making a stop at the Spokane International Airport.
They'll be there until tomorrow as part of a Wings of Freedom tour. Visitors have the chance to see 2 World War II warbirds up close. You can also participate in walkthrough tours of some of those planes, and in the tours are self-guided. Reservations are not needed.
Our B-24 is the last combat-ready B-24 in the world today that's still airworthy. So it was the most produced Allied airplane of World War II. They built 18,400 of them. There's only 1 flying. So.
Wow. Ground and walkthrough tours, as we said, available from 9 a.m. to noon tomorrow. Admission is $15 for adults, $5 for children 12 and under. But here's the thing, it is free for all World War II veterans.